I really hate to say this, but the Warden in its current form is not a good addition to Minecraft. In any difficulty, it's simply too strong compared to the rest of the game. Now in easy and normal mode, it's much more balanced, but when it gets to hard mode, it feels like they just gave up on making it fair. In hard mode, it can take you out in pretty much 2 hits, which is a complete stretch compared to the other mobs in the game. Let's compare the Warden to the final boss of Minecraft, the Ender Dragon. The Ender Dragon with its melee attack can do 15 damage. Do you want to know how much the Warden can do with its melee attack? 45! I've always found it strange because the Warden is not even considered a boss. It doesn't have a boss health bar, yet it is the strongest mob in the entire game. He's overpowered for the sake of being overpowered. There's no rhyme or reason to it. He's protecting a place that's already tedious to find and the loot isn't worth the trouble that it's going for. The video I'm currently showing is by a YouTuber named Discords. He's fighting the Warden well, but he's clearly skilled at Minecraft's combat and therefore makes the fight look much easier. Also, he's using potions, maxed out gear, and other equipment, which not all players will have. The battle relies on a perfect loadout and a great player to even stand a chance of killing him. Now there are countless problems to criticize the Warden for and ways to fix them. But before I get into that, did you guys know that you're watching YouTube and you're watching a channel specifically that was made yesterday? You know what would help me out a lot? Come on, take a guess. Anyway. Now before we start, I'd like to say that I do not hate the Warden or Mojang. I really do like the design of the Warden, but the problem, of course, lies with the mechanics of it, and I do think it can be fixed pretty easily. First, we have to address the biggest problems with the Warden. Number 1, it has too much health. Number 2, he deals too much damage. Number 3, not enough EXP is dropped. Number 4, not enough loot is dropped. And number 5, his spawn location is too hard to find. I'll be splitting these topics up into sections, and then at the end, I'll give some of the potential arguments that I've seen for the Warden, and why I believe they aren't always the best. So without further ado, at the time of recording this, the Warden deals over 40 damage or 22.5 hearts of damage to the player. With a full set of netherite armor, you would get killed in 2 shots. Now this, I think, is absurd and way overkill. For an unexpected player stumbling across the ancient cities, this guarantees almost a loss of all of their items that they worked so long to get, and letting them despawn in a place guaranteed to be thousands of blocks from spawn. Not to mention the Warden has no real weaknesses. The only 2 ways that I saw people trying to counter him was pillaring up or making a small bunker under him. Yeah, none of those work. Welp. That didn't go to plan. I would also like to remind you that he's resistant to fire aspect and eye protection 4 in that video. Can you see what I mean when I say there's a problem here? Now, there are multiple fixes, but I think a neat way is to not to necessarily debuff the Warden. A cool idea is to maybe make other mobs like the design of them, and make them regular mobs around the ancient cities, and also to make them decently strong too. Then, add an enchantment that would go on the armor to add defense to that Warden's specific species of mobs. And please, for the love of God, do not make them only applicable if you don't have a certain enchantment like mending. I don't want multiple armor sets, one for regular gameplay and one for the ancient cities. No, it's tedious. We have literally been sitting here for like 15 years fighting each other. When do you die? Alright, cool. But in the time that we could be fighting, I could have got married. Could have got married. I could have made at least 2 peanut butter sandwiches, but instead I decided to fight you. What am I doing with my life? Okay, existential bit over, but I just have to ask, why does the Warden have over twice as much health as the final boss in the game, and yet does still not receive the boss bar? It doesn't make any sense to me. At least the boss bar would make it feel like you're making some sort of progress. Without it, it just feels like a constant repetition of itself. And with the boss bar, it showed that, hey, things are progressing, and you're more likely to care and make less mistakes, because if you make one mistake in this fight, you're done. And I'm sorry I'm just more rambling on this part, but there's not really much to show because a lot of it I was already talking about in the last section. They really kind of connect, I guess. And I think this is just more out of frustration. Why is this a thing? In what world has this become acceptable? I kill a zombie in like half a second and I get 5 XP. I break off my leg and my arm and I get 5 XP. Why? I like to imagine that employees at Mojang were just sitting in their offices waiting for 1.19 to come out, and then they all started collectively panicking as they realized they didn't give any EXP to the Warden, so they just added 5 quickly in a rush. In reality, there's not much I can actually say on this, so I'm just gonna move on. I'm not saying that the item that the Warden drops isn't cool. I think the concept is very neat, but I wish it was expanded upon more. I think with a few extra tweaks, or maybe just something different about it, it could be really cool. I would love for the Warden to also maybe like drop like a new weapon, like something that could be like a good projectile weapon. Like what if like it could like pierce armor, but it has like a long charge time. It'd give you an actual good reason to kill it instead of just to stop you or to let you progress from entering to ancient cities. There's no point. The fact of the matter is that you'll almost never see the ancient cities to begin with. The closest they can spawn is usually over 1,000 blocks away, nowhere near spawn. By the time you may find them, you'll already be late into the game when you'll have farms enough where you barely have to go mining anyway. And even if you are fully prepared, you'll probably die. Hi, hey, welcome to the end of the video. I should probably start up with a bit of an apology for using so much content that was made by other users in the visual part. That's just because it's, 6 a.m. in the morning and I've been working on this since like around 10 last night with no real break, and I'm on a tight schedule right now. And it won't be a trend, I just need to get around to making my own. And I just don't have the time at the moment. But I will work on that in the future, and I really hope you enjoy, and I hope you can support me in the future on this. Now, as I promised, I'm going to give a little bit of rebuttal to any claims I've seen why the Warden is good, and I think the biggest one is that it's supposed to be like protecting and making it more difficult to go into the ancient cities, but I always kind of see that as kind of a silly excuse, which it makes me feel like I don't want to go to the ancient cities, which is a shame because I love the build design. But it's just so unbelievably strong that anything in there isn't really worth it to me, I guess. And honestly, at the moment, I can't really think of anything, and I gotta get to bed. And I want to get this out today, so I'm just gonna export this video and sleep. If I missed any credits, please tell me. If you ended up liking it, maybe share it with friends. Maybe, just saying, it could definitely help me. And I'm gonna shamelessly put any single Minecraft YouTuber in the tags because I want views and I want money. Alright, have a good day, and I'll talk to you maybe sometime soon, hopefully.